Welcome to the podcast, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Good to have you. How's your day? How's your morning going?
Morning's going good.
Going
Just
good?
Finished with the class and trying to juggle dad life as well.
Dad life, yes.
Yeah, it's been
How
good.
old is your little one now?
5.
Five,
So he's still
yeah.
running around. He's
Is
at
it getting
5
harder?
now.
Is it getting older or easier?
I feel like this is where it's fun because then
Fun.
it's like my stuff is the movement, but then he's able to then start, like there's a little baby bar at the gym.
Oh,
like,
nice,
Those
yeah.
types of things he likes to have fun with.
Yeah, sweet.
But yeah, so I think he's at a fun stage at the moment. But then when emotions and stuff start to come, maybe when he's like 8, 9, that's going to be the harder part.
A little bit harder.
Yeah, we'll just try and navigate it.
Nice. Look, brother, I wanted to chat to you because you've been in the industry for over 10 years now. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in the fitness industry, we've had a lot of changes, a lot of different trends come and go during that time.
Yep.
And we both have a pretty similar background with CrossFit being like a lot of our early phases in training.
Yeah.
And we've seen especially the functional space really change during that time. So yeah, I'd like to chat to you about what you think have been some of the big changes that you've seen in the industry over the years, and whether you like where the changes are going.
Yeah. So, yeah, a little bit of background. It was mainly just personal training. You did personal training by yourself in your garage to start?
Yeah. And you started a commercial gym, right?
I was commercial, yeah. So that was where we probably deviate a little bit, but otherwise, yeah, pretty much the same. But inside that, there were so many different PTs with their own specialty. And when I first started, holistic lifestyle coaching was the thing. That was a big thing. And I think more and more people it is full circle. People are still starting to see those relevant topics, digestion, the neurological stuff that people are dealing with. If you bring it back to some of the holistic lifestyle coaching, that covers quite a bit, but the trend definitely fell off. And then I felt like I pushed myself into the CrossFit movement, which was the pioneer of all the functional stuff. But then there was still did you have to go through the TRX training, kettlebell training? Did you keep all your CECs up with all of those?
I mean, I didn't keep up with them, but I mean, I did a pole check level 1 years ago, so I know that was my begin. I guess that's how I really got into training. I'd gone into the gym, and then I found out about pole check, and then I was like, maybe because I'm not doing all this other stuff, that's why I'm not seeing as good a results.
Yep.
And then you learn a few things, you realize part of it is also just I just haven't been training that long. So I just, I don't need some special exercise, I don't need to be standing on one leg on a Bosu ball and doing a single arm row. Maybe I just haven't been lifting consistently enough to see results.
Yeah.
But I loved all that because I liked how it looked at the deeper level of things.
Yeah, yes, and that's the biggest thing, right? How people's energy feels will then dictate what their habits are, and then so if you can try and target some of the underlying things. But those principles, there's a couple good ones, and then the whole BOSU functional training, it's not functional because you're not loading yourself enough to get a stimulus, right? And so the stability, how much time do people really want to spend on that stuff? And you just have clients checking out because it's it's really helpful, but am I going to get weight loss? Am I going to get fitter? And it's but that's not the point. And then you try and change their goal. And so that was a big trend at the start. Well, obviously, yeah, you were influenced by Paul Check as well. But once that happened and then into CrossFit, that was the big trend. The 2013, 2014 was the golden era, right? Where you had all these personalities and then you saw what people what humans could do, not just the weightlifting, the cardio, not just the skills of the gymnastics. It was all bundled into one of elite athleticism, right? So that was what I gravitated towards big times, and that was a big trend for a while. And then you started to see other forms of functional training with I think F45 really their marketing was amazing. They really hit the group fitness, but then probably in the middle, going back even before Paul Check, Les Mills was group fitness training, right? And that was a big thing. And then in the mix of CrossFit, maybe even before F45, Les Mills started doing grit and so there's other functional things along the way. More and more studios started to pop up rather than commercial, and then the CrossFit gyms and then F45s. I feel like F45 is still starting to have a resurgence. But yeah, so that's where people started to gravitate towards, and then the big weight loss, like even before our time, the Biggest Loser was a big trend, right? And then people started to go towards more health, and then, but in terms of where it's all going, events and racing and like something that people can be a part of and do together, I think is more bringing people together with the exercise. And that's relevant even with, I mean...
I guess high rocks, right?
It is high rocks, and then you're getting all these other variations to it as well. And that's where you can kind of see that the pioneer of having that one event that is repeatable is now something that people enjoy. It's no different to a triathlon, right? Like where you understand exactly what you need to do. Whereas CrossFit was a little bit different with the unknown.
It's too different all the time.
Yeah.
You know, I was listening to a podcast, like a CrossFit training podcast from HQ, and they were saying, like, I guess they got a business person to come in and talk to them, and they said, you guys really fucked up by not just having one staple workout that people could come and do at the games.
Yeah.
Because people, you know, now with High Rocks, I guess what really they've done brilliantly, because a High Rocks race is really one WOD.
Yeah.
Is they decided, well, this is something that everyone can do, right? Like whether you do it slow or fast, you do like the different levels.
Yep.
And I guess CrossFit really underestimated how much people wanted to be, if you offered them that opportunity to do like a massive Cindy, right, at every, competition, how many people would actually be like, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to train for that. And I know exactly what I need to get good at. You know, I think that's one of the things that I think appeals to people about High Rocks.
And they missed the mark with it. They tried to do it with benchmark workouts and hero WODs, girl workouts. Like they tried to have that element. They knew it was important, but then it to be exactly the same, like same conditions, same distance between this, and this. Yeah, they did miss the mark with that. And I think even CrossFit gyms with the trend, yes, it could have been. I think it could have been a little bit more systemized, and I think. Yeah, the quality control over it's not a franchise, right? It's a license agreement. It still could have been done better. And then I think CrossFit would have continued its trajectory. But they still missed the mark with that. But then it gave it opportunities where more people are exercising because there's less barrier to entry. I think that's where the BFTs and the F45s and the studios, the weight loss, that all comes into play. But then now the trend is now I think people are trying to bring in Pilates and the recoveries and like not just having one gym for your functional training, but now they're trying to have everything, which is originally, and then you go back to 2014, people had ice, look at CrossFit Mode that turned into Soul. They were all doing this stuff.
They were really ahead of their time.
And you see, like that's 10 years ago.
They still are a little bit ahead of their time because they had the float room, right? And that hasn't actually hit the standard recovery area. But what you've heard it here first. Give it a year, and I think you'll see the recovery places having sauna, heat, float, and recovery boots, all that stuff.
Yep, because we would go like even before Fit Wars and stuff. We would go to specific like the aerated salt rooms, and then we would go to float, and we would try and seek these things to try and get a competitive edge because we thought it was the fad thing. That kind of trend. And now it's like starting to re-enter, but then there's price points and packaging that makes it a little bit better, which is, again, we're going back to the health thing. Like there's this trend where it's like people are finding the importance of it, but then is it at the right price point? Is it easy enough to just go and do it as part of my daily routine? But it's also like the idea of it is nice, but then do people actually use it? And then, what are they actually having inside their week? But there's an option. I think particularly weekends and stuff is where people could probably utilize it more to try and find a balance of the training and the recovery side of things. But so much Pilates. Pilates is like a big trend at the moment.
Oh yeah, it's huge.
And we've spoken about this. This is like people getting off the ground to try and start moving again. But it's a rehab thing, and people are then using it for their main source of training. And you're like,
yes, people then
but people like it.
Yeah.
And so it's like you have to go along with the trends, and some gyms are implementing it a year ago, and they're again ahead of their time. So it's an interesting one, but that's pretty much where the trends I find are are at the moment.
I think one of the things that I notice, especially with the rise of all the different functional studios, is how much everyone, like, let's say with food, right? Everyone likes food, right? Everyone really deep down, I think, likes some form of fitness. It's just about finding your taste. And for a long time, you just didn't have a lot of choices. You know, I found that, you know, being early on in the CrossFit scene, because I look at it as lots of these different things are essentially a version of CrossFit.
Yeah.
But the way that they're presented, the way that CrossFit is presented isn't for everyone. And it took me so long to realize. There's some people that for some reason, there's something about it, like whether it's the grittiness of the gyms or the kind of music that they play or the kind of super extroverted personalities that it attracts. Like it just doesn't vibe with them, right?
Yeah.
But if you do the same thing and you put it like in a different, you know, a different spin or a different flavor, you take one thing out, you get this whole nother group of people that say, oh, this is my jam, you know? It's like some people might not like, you know, omelets, but they like hard-boiled eggs or vice versa, right?
It is.
They're both eggs, but you don't want them that way. You want them the other way.
Yeah, that's perfectly, that's how it works.
What do you think are some of the things that the studios do really well that like CrossFit as a movement could have done better to try and attract more people?
CrossFit did have events, but it was for the elite, right? So, and then there were, I think more and more people are looking towards, like having shown results and then having events that brings people together. And it's once a year with the Open, right? Whereas if you had that more times during the year, you might find them gravitating towards it. But then the less barrier to entry, I think something that CrossFit Adelaide did really well that other gyms didn't is they debunked the barrier to entry. They had the young and old, but then they displayed it and then they made people feel welcome. And so, I think more events and then, taking away barrier to entries of like, oh, can I do this? And then you have, oh yeah, it's pretty easy. We just do this instead of this. Then it works. Like a box squat because your knees are blown. So that comes down to the coaching really, doesn't it?
Why do you think that running's had such a resurgence over the last couple of years?
Running. It is. It comes back to there's events that are low barrier to entry and people feel like they want to be a part of something. And then they do. And then it's like, it's again, low barrier to entry. People don't have to pay to just go and run. And then it's easy. And then there's free running programs. And then so I think that's huge because what was it, 24? Yeah, 23, 24, where run clubs just became a huge thing, right? And that, I think where people feel like they want to be a part of something, that's like the biggest thing. Because then it's like easier to suffer with someone else. That's always a way.
Yeah, I find it so interesting because some of these things have been around for really so long, right? Like even with you mentioning earlier with Les Mills, they were doing group fitness for a long time, but it was just a little bit too choreographed for a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Like really they're the innovators in that group fitness space, but a little bit too choreographed, you take away some of the choreography from it, and then people start liking it. But I've always found this funny because in a really good CrossFit gym, like it becomes really choreographed again. People become really good at like everyone lines up in the white space with the same barbell, everyone's starting at the same time, they're all moving on to the next exercise. Like ironically, it does do that whole loop that you were talking about earlier with like the pole check kind of stuff.
Yep, it comes full circle and it's always, when it feels like maybe it's more coach driven and so rather than like music driven or it just goes back to the whole egg analogy, right? Like, it's still exercise, but is it your flavor? And some people love like the beat. Some people that are into dance like would love RPM classes and stuff. It's so fun. I saw it like a Chinese like big event. It was just someone training. There's like this big industrial area. They're all on bikes and they're literally at a rave where they're like throwing water on each other and they're dancing on the
dancing. There we go. Yeah.
But like people still love it. It's still like I get that. It may not be exciting for us. But there are like millions of people that are now, especially with Les Mills, how they're starting to roll out, different ways in the digital world. Like it's phenomenal. But it's still just trying to get people to exercise, which is a big win.
How have you navigated your own training through these different trends?
For clients, like I've always wanted to be a guinea pig, just make sure I at least try a portion of it or try a big stint of it, and then that way I can then deliver it better. So that's why I kind of took myself through the functional aspect, the pull check, the Les Mills, the functional training, and then CrossFit, and then now it's been more powerlifting and cardio, which is more what REVL does. And then I think I'm probably late to the party, but I'm now trying to get into like 5 kilometer running and trying to go for better times. But yeah, so I'm just navigating it based on what I think will be best for the people I try and help.
Yeah.
And so I've always just been the guinea pig, really. But in terms of competition, yeah, I've not really even thought about, like, I just want to feel good and like still be strong, still practice some of the other stuff that might pop up, and use myself as a guinea pig. But then, yeah, I really just do the events for fun. And it's the same thing. I'm probably part of the group of just wanting to be a part of something, have some fun. And then like we did on the weekend, 2 weekends ago with RTG. It was just fun to throw down again. And it definitely feels like the start of what CrossFit was, right? Like with the Fit Wars and stuff, except Fit Wars, when I look back at it, I'm like 2 days over the weekend. Did you do the 18K trail run?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
O'Halloran Hill,
Yeah.
like
Got lost in it.
yeah, like all of those things, like that's been around for so long. So it's like making sure I'm equipped to do those fun activities. Like at the start of the year, I did the weightlifting comp and the triathlon. I'd have a month specifically to those different events. But then, yeah, it's if something pops up that I'm like, oh, I haven't really done before. High Rocks in December. Just train towards that and prevent injuries, still be able to pick up my son, and then go have fun, be a part of something. That's probably the biggest thing that I'm doing.
Have you modified your training at all to make it more high rock specific?
Just because when I look at high rocks, when there's certain movement patterns, right? There's no real vertical pulling, so it makes you even more aware of some of the weaknesses or the muscle groups that are not used that you need to put in your training. Otherwise, it gets like you get overloaded. You do too much chest, your shoulders are forward, and it doesn't work. So you need to do more horizontal pulling. So if you're doing lots of quad stuff, I've been doing a lot more hamstring, glute stuff, just because in my training I've added 1 or 2 high rocks sessions. But the fundamentals of like general physical preparedness, where you're still having to squat, deadlift, bench, overhead press, I just start to put in more of the muscle groups that are not being used in those classes. So that's how I've modified it, because otherwise the volume just gets too janky on one side and then not the other.
Yeah, and you're right. Something like high rocks is super quite dominant.
It's so quite dominant.
Yeah.
But then like your running pattern and how you row, how you ski, like the sled, you still need all this hamstring and glute work, and you're like, but I don't have it specifically in. Something that I've done probably the last 4 weeks, it's actually, is like 60-second, because I've always been like strong, powerful, but then my slow twitch muscle fibers, like they're just garbage. So 60 seconds straight of an exercise, like 20, 30 kilos, very, very light, and trying to do those types of muscle groups that are weaker or not being used as much. And then, it's still endurance training, right? And it goes back to the fundamentals of what we talk about with linear periodization, where we work through 60 to 75 seconds of time on attention versus the 15 seconds. CrossFit spends a lot of time here. How often we always break sets up earlier than what we need. It's 20 to 30 seconds of work, but then, the 75 seconds I never really got. So that's where I've tried to work, so then I can then deliver it later on and see what kind of stimulus it was. But it's definitely changed running. It's definitely changed my ability to just hold on to movements a little bit better. And with Global RTG, it was a good indicator just with the squats and the box jumps and the bike erg. I was still able to then box jump and clear the lactic acid a lot quicker, and I could just feel a difference. I wasn't heavy as what I normally would be. I find it quite hard to get rid of the lactic acid, and I'm finding with running as well, anywhere under 5, right? You can start to feel the 5 minutes per kilometer. The legs just blow up, but then lately it's felt like I can actually sustain that a little bit better.
A little bit longer.
Yeah, so it's not too bad.
I definitely noticed that when I was training at REVL, like it highlighted to me the deficiency I had in that, 1 minute to 2 minute effort on the ergs.
Yep.
Like I realized if it was, really, CrossFit's really good at like, you do this very specific amount of time of work, like you're always testing things. So it's 500 meters or a K or 2K. And it's like, okay, I'm going to hurt for that time. But I found it really challenging to notice just how shit my efforts were on a minute of rowing or 2 minutes of rowing or 3 minutes of rowing or skiing or cycling, and realizing, because I feel powerful on weights, but I realized I don't feel very powerful on this. And it was really humbling to realize, I have to work a lot to just get that erg, cal per hour to go up by 50.
Yep.
Going from like 950 to 1,000 pulls on a rower for a long time actually takes a lot of work to just improve that little bit.
Yep. And it's after the 45-second time domain, which lactic acid, because again, we've done so much strength training, so much power training. CrossFit, it's like so dynamic, but then how much do we actually train the slow twitch muscle fibers specifically?
Yeah.
Like you're just going to hold on and you're just going to do RDLs for 75 seconds straight.
Yeah.
And like whatever weight you choose, but it just has to be ongoing.
And I think sometimes, because in CrossFit, sometimes you'll add really long stuff. So you confuse that with thinking, I'm doing like endurance work.
Yep.
But you don't realize, you're going to the extremes, but really missing that middle ground. Because you're right, in a CrossFit, a 7-minute WOD, you do break so much. You're very not aerobic a lot of the time. It's lots of like small anaerobic efforts.
It's the small anaerobic efforts in small rest periods.
Yes.
And then you end up with a 1-to-1 work to rest. Well, that is like threshold training.
Yeah.
Right? It's not where, when you look at even if you do like a 70-minute workout, like over an hour in CrossFit, again, you're breaking constantly, or you're trying you're trying to manage your skill level.
I remember James OPT Fitzgerald, who used to run this training company called OPEX. I think he won the first CrossFit Games.
That's a throwback.
He had a really good strength and conditioning background, and he realized after analyzing a lot of the games athletes that lots of the athletes who came in and did really well straight away had a really big strength background, or had pretty good like muscle, like bodybuilding type, like contractile muscle potential in their muscles. So when they did, like, let's say people look at Rich Froning all the time and they say when he's doing workouts. So James Fitzgerald was saying that one of the things that he noticed is like, when you look at people like Rich Froning, he looks like he's not even trying with lots of the WODs and workouts. And he was saying that some of the people who came into CrossFit and did the best, when they did the workouts were really aerobic for them because the weights were so light.
Yeah.
So they were working at paces where they could actually just keep moving. But for everyone who comes into it and they start doing it, and every WOD or workout is a strength set because they have to break things up so much, they're getting completely different like dose responses from the workouts. One person keeps getting fitter and fitter and fitter because they keep getting better at working that energy system that gets rewarded in CrossFit. Whereas the other person gets stronger and more powerful, but they actually should be doing the workouts significantly lighter to get the same response.
Yep. And that's so hard, especially when they train with him, like they just want to.
And CrossFit has that thing of RX, right? Where you get given this goal that you get the pat on the back if you can do it RX.
Yeah.
So your first goal isn't like, I want to do it RX, but do it RX in a way that's easy and light. You go, I want to do it RX so that I get the pat on the back and I can tick that box at my Wodify score or whatever.
Yeah. And then it feels good, right? But that's an interesting one, because the Henshaws of the world, like the ones that helped him, right? They all had like this sports science background, and they already had like triathletes and marathon runners. Like they all knew all this stuff, and it just felt like it was the basics, but just people deliver it. And that's what I did wrong, right? Like I just wanted to get stronger because I thought strength was the pre-qualifier. And then you can still do strength and still do this stimulus, and I just never did. And it was just yeah, I think that's what kept me out of like regionals and that kind of stuff, because I just never worked on what is truly aerobic capacity, right? Like
Yes.
it's your ability to do things while in aerobic energy system, and they just like I just didn't do that. But with Ben Norman with CrossFit Adelaide, when he programs stuff for the gym in the group setting, the intent is delivered in a way, and it's quirky and it's him, but like it's delivered in a way where it's like, this is our intent, right? So he will strip weight off the bar. It's like, this is what we want to do. You're going to be doing it for 3 minutes straight, or we do want threshold today, or we do just want strength. And I think, yeah, that's how it's delivered well, and that's how you can get good responses. But yeah, it's just hard, and especially with the general public or people or coaches that find it hard to deliver it that way. It's yeah, I think that's where it can be really hard for. Well, it has been hard, and people don't do it very well.
Yeah, for sure, brother. We're going to take a quick little break. We're going to come back and we're going to chat a little bit more about coaching specifically.
Yes, that'd be good.
You have worked with a lot of coaches. You've essentially helped develop a lot of coaches, especially in the last role that you've been in.
Yeah.
What have been some of the things that you've noticed that have changed in the coaching space in the last 10 years that you've been around? And you also had like the Globo Gym days, so you would have seen like a lot of like the earlier PTs.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, having some sort of direction on what element of coaching they want to be really good at, I think is always the standout. If they don't have that, they want to help people, they have the passion, but they're not sure where that passion is directed, then they can get lost. That's probably the biggest thing. And then more and more people are realizing how important it is. We have a job. It sounds stupid, but like we're there to empower people, and then we spend all our time critiquing people and then saying that they're not good, right? Like the squat needs to be deeper. Your shoulders need to be like open more, and then that's all that's left. And I think now and more now than ever, people are finding like, oh, people's brain does not switch off when I give them something good. And then I'll move into, okay, here's what we can work on, and then let's keep doing this good. And I think that it's like the shit sandwich type thing that everyone always goes on about, but it's doing it in real time. It's doing it with real concise, real specific cues that is going to give them direction, spatial awareness, those types of coaching elements into the passion that you really want to deliver. So say that is weight loss, say that is strength and conditioning, skills, yeah, just anything, any form that you are passionate about. But then even in sport, right? Like you have these people you're like, oh, you're a great leader, you're a great communicator, you're amazing in delivering information to then I understand what you're talking about. And then you find they do these things really well. They build the relationship, they form these little things along the way. So yeah, I think now more than ever it goes towards what is your passion? Where do you want to direct your effort, and then how are you delivering it? I find that's what you don't get lost, and you'll find even if you go into different workforces, right? It's got to be the same thing. You have to deliver a presentation. It's going to be the same thing. So
Yeah, so I guess you're saying maybe in the past it was very like technique focused, and I guess it's implementing a bit of like empathy into the actual coaching.
that's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think some coaches lean too much on empathy and not enough on like the technical part?
Yeah, now more than yeah. So yes, the empathy is there, and then something I've kind of suffered from was having the hard conversation and calling people out on the things that's not being done, and that's what leaders can do. Leaders can choose like and have the hard conversation, and that's keeping people accountable. A lot of people have personal training, have group training. They want to be held accountable, and then they will make excuses or little elements where they just try to give you the answer that you want to hear, but not really do the work, and then they don't get the result, and then it's like, well, what did they employ you for? So then that conversation needs to be had as well. So yes, empathy, but then being able to direct that conversation into what are we here for? Yeah, I think those two.
It's such a weird relationship because you get so many different types of people that will employ like a coach for a service, but there's a humongous cohort of those people that don't really want like the thing that they're paying for.
Yeah.
Like they say they want to be accountable, and then you maybe tell them, "Hey, look, you should change this," and then they'll come up with some sort of like reason. You know,
This is
like
why I'm not doing it.
yeah, for sure. Like I think in the CrossFit scenario, in like a even functional space scenario, like it'd be like, oh, you need to get lower in the squat, and they might instead of saying yes, I should, they'll say, oh, like my knees hurt or my ankles are tight or.
Yep.
And those things might be true, but they don't realize that by saying that first, it's like, even subconsciously, it like unacknowledges like the work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Like that might be true, and you should still go a little bit deeper in your squat.
Yeah. Or asking, okay, so how do I do that? And then it gives the coach the floor to be able to expand. And then yes, the coaches have a lot of accountability to then deliver it well, but then you also need someone to then take on that feedback. And yeah, you're right in saying it's a weird dynamic because the member, the client, they need to be okay with being like, yes, you're here to help me, so I need to take on that info. If you need to say squat deeper, okay, how do I do that? Because I'm finding this. And then there's a completely different conversation. Be like, all right, let's get you chocks. Let's get you some ankle mobility between sets. Let's get you doing this. And yeah, you're right. It's the subconscious just putting up the wall straight away rather than being like, I'm going to take that feedback on and then, all right, how do we get there? Because then that's what the coach's like ability and knowledge should be able to deliver, right?
Yes, for sure. And I think people sometimes really struggle to distinguish between who they are and how they move or how they eat or how they train or how they present. Those things are separate. Like me saying you are not moving well is not saying you are a bad person. But the person takes it, I'm shit because you said I have a shit squat. And then
in
they
CrossFit,
go, yeah.
Right? Like if you don't have good shoulder mobility, you are like worthless.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that's how you feel. You're like, oh, I can't do this movement. And then I think both of us were definitely like, all right, well, we need to tick off all the skills to feel capable. Mm-hmm. And then like, because like you're saying, like with the close grip overhead squats, right? Your mobility is great for that. But then don't ask me to do other things because that's all I trained.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
I felt like that made me validate myself.
Yes, exactly.
The association, it's like trying to keep your identity away from this. I am this person. This is what I want to work on, but it doesn't define who I am. Yeah, and that's the same thing, with nutrition and everything like that. And it's just, you could do it in the workplace as well. Like, you might not be performing in this area with sales or this area with management or staff or any of your KPIs. It still means you're a good person, but you just need to work on that area. But it's hard. It's hard for people to, separate those things.
For sure. And I think, like, I guess a whole other conversation, this is very niche for just personal trainers and people in coaching roles, is there's a whole aspect of like, you have to also do all that, but carry yourself in the way that people perceive you. Like, you have to have some type of leadership in, the things that you choose. Like, let's say for you, you're always putting yourself out there in different kinds of competitions, and that's really inspiring for clients. And then that makes what you say, like, they'll take it on with a lot more gravitas because they're like, well, Dean puts himself out there. He's walking the walk and talking the talk. And I think that's a whole nother aspect that I think some coaches, some do that better than others. Some do it too much, right? Where they become an athlete and they forget to be a coach, right? Like that, again, happens a lot in the CrossFit space.
Yeah.
But some don't do it enough and don't realize like that is a whole nother element to it.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that and finding that line about like walking the walk if you talk the talk?
Yeah, it is a balance because you're meant to uplift others, but then when you're doing these things, a lot of people get caught up. I think how people get, I don't know, drawn into that being a whole athlete type of thing is when they're doing the movements, it becomes, more about themselves and what they have to prove. And then you have to go deep. You have to go deep in like your own subconscious. What am I doing it for? What are my own goals? It's the same needs analysis that you do for clients, but then you have to do it on yourself, and then that way, yeah, you're able to find the balance because you know why you're doing it. And if it is for others, then you'll always refer back to it. And even mid-event, you'll probably find yourself thinking about these things. Oh, I could really bring this back. Oh, someone spoke to me about this. I can really help them. But yeah, it's definitely a balance. And I think the more you work on yourself, the more you'll always help others. And hence, obviously, like, how much work have you done with all of your books and stuff, like, but then in different elements of your life. Yeah, I think that's where coaches in general, it is niche to personal trainers where they have to have an understanding of like psychology and nutrition and fitness and delivery, which is hard, but then to also
then you got to be like,
you also need to then have an arm out and being like, hey, I'm just a coach. I understand you're going through these things. Here is where I need to refer you to those different elements. And it's fine. It's really knowing where to refer. And yeah, so it's probably not in regards to the athlete versus coaching and that kind of stuff, but it is, yeah, it's trying to find that middle ground.
Have you noticed many differences and trends in like programming that coaches will do throughout the 10 years that you've been kind of like in the industry?
CrossFit, I feel like pioneered the way of an EMOM, an AMRAP, an E2, like, yeah, I don't think before that time, like, was there much really? Like, it was 8 to 12 reps. It was like 3 to 5 for strength training. It was all rep based. And then, all right, well, how do I then, because I think more and more general population want more development with general physical preparedness. That includes some strength, some fitness. Well, then how do I deliver it in a package to then have people get a condensed big amount of training in a specific amount of time where then it's repeatable, so then I can make a franchise or something like that. EMOMs and AMRAPs and all of that stuff just tend to fit there really well. But then who created it? It was CrossFit.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah, so again, yeah, the trends are there, but it's also so many, yeah, time-based things to help a class run smooth, or even people doing their own training. They still have those elements in there, and I think, like, it's still from CrossFit. CrossFit pioneered the way for that.
I just find it interesting how lots of these, you know, whether they come from CrossFit or other training backgrounds, some of these ideas keep getting repackaged. So one of the things, I'm a lot more in like the online space, but I see lots of like some online coaches now have like kind of branded the progressive overload concept. And it's like lots of people are now, I guess, pushing, you know, like you got to do PO. And the other day I was like, PO, what's PO? And they're like, you know, oh, I'm like on a PO program, a progressive overload program. And part of me wants to face palm because I'm like, isn't every program a progressive?
Like everything.
But for some people, I guess they've never thought. I guess there's a huge population of people that just go to the gym, lift the same weight all the time, and you know, if it gets packaged in a way where it seems like, oh, there's this thing that you've been missing, then they go, oh, that's what I need to add to my training.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Even with running, right? Like it's kind of like I've always found it. Like I laugh at it a little bit, and I get that maybe not everyone understands the point from where I find it comical, but in my like brain, it always made sense that yeah, if you want to build endurance, you should probably do like long, easy runs, right? Yeah. Which now, you know, everyone's like zone 2, hashtag zone 2.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like, but for some people, like they needed to be told, like you got to do like 30 an hour minutes in like, don't get your heart rate too high, be able to sustain it for a long time.
Yeah. That's the big thing. It's with the packaging. When I first started, EPOC, excess post oxygen consumption was a big thing. But then I think maybe something that hasn't really shown its face too much is PAP. Have you seen post activation potentiation?
Oh, yeah.
It's like trying to do something like really difficult, or an isometric hold, and then going into the set. Wave training, Smolov, all of that stuff was big, right? But it's just still strength training, and then it's still, you're getting the progressive overload. I think a I don't know if they'll start being like, yeah, I'm on the linear train or something like linear periodization.
Yeah.
I don't know whether that'll come in, but I think as long as more and more people exercising, more and more people are getting educated, happy. But yeah, for people to package it, I mean, it's pretty smart, right?
It's very smart.
Progressive Overload's been around for ages, and then like, we're going to rehash this and we're going to do it better than ever.
Well, it's
good job.
It's kind of like it was really brilliant with, you know, everyone, a lot of people now, and like if they're trying to lose weight, are aware of the calorie deficit concept, right?
So that was 5 years ago.
Yeah, like it's huge, right? But every
if it fits your macros,
that's right. Every diet follows that principle essentially, but somebody was smart enough to be like, let's just put a name to it.
Yeah.
And now everyone's like, oh, calorie deficit all the time. They'll just repeat it without maybe even ever taking the time to like think about like, well, what's my baseline? How much of there's different deficits.
What's my TDE?
There's different deficits I could be in. So I find it interesting how people will hear these concepts and they gravitate to it and it becomes everything.
Yeah, and I think, but even with holistic lifestyle coaching and that kind of stuff, they really went down the energy route, and then the energy route will dictate the habits, and the habits will then dictate the calorie loss. Or if you've got more energy, then you're going to burn more. And that's, I think, just completing it was Clean Health Performance Nutrition. They did the level 3. And their principle seems to be going through, get your energy right, make sure you feel good, and then the deficit, the goals will happen later, right? You'll have more energy for what outcome you want. But nobody really cares about that with the calorie deficit, right? But then it seems with your stuff, right? It's still really healthy habits where you're still trying to get a lot of vegetables, still trying to get whole foods and different protein sources. Like, that's still important. But then it's also, what will people adhere to? What will people do? And then I think you start there, right?
Yeah, well, I just find you need to start so basic to really talk to the general. Like, this nutrition is so complex, and there's so much like nuanced things you can delve down into. But yeah, like a lot of people, it's just like a huge thing that I want everyone to take away is just like some people have issues with counting calories because they have like eating disorders or they have bad relationship with food. It's like, look, the only reason why we're doing that is just create some mindfulness. Let's just create mindfulness around how much you eat.
Yeah.
Some people just have no awareness about how much they're consuming. And the only reason why I want you to be aware that bag of Doritos that you fucking love has so many calories is because you just don't know that it has like 800 calories. Yeah. And if you did, and you realize that you could eat a lot more food of other stuff that you also like. Like, I'm not saying swap it for, 2 crates of broccoli. Yeah. I'm saying swap it for other stuff that you do like, that you would eat, that isn't as bad. And then you realize, oh, this isn't too bad. Like, there's other things that I do like to eat that would fit my calories that, can still help me achieve these goals.
But that comes down to education, right?
Like, for sure, yeah.
The whole goal of a coach or someone, even online training, like, if you can make someone independent and have the education to get them independent, they're going to make those adjustments on the fly.
Exactly.
But in order to do that, it needs to be step 1. Step 1 is you teaching them how to do that. And that is simplifying it back down to, all right, let's not worry about any of this stuff. Let's not worry about the news has said about avocados bad or good, or just let's go back down to the basics. Yeah, the awareness first. And then, because the 4 elements of learning the skill is, or the habit of the unconscious decisions, and then you end up going into conscious thought, and then conscious decision, and then unconscious habit, right? And you just move through those processes. But simplify it, make sure that you can I get the counting calories may be bad initially, but how do you know what 50 grams of butter is to oats right? They all have that different element, and as much as it does suck initially, but it's also just...
And it's also not a forever thing. I think that's an issue. I think people sometimes, they feel like I have to count things. And that's like, no, you don't. The average person that I work with doesn't actually eat that much different food.
No.
Like, you just need to count it a few times so you realize, oh, like my breakfast is probably like, 700 calories, and it should probably be like 500 to fit my goals. You do that once, unless you happen to be somebody that needs extreme variety in your life, you could do that once, and then you go, okay, now I know how to eat a good breakfast. And then you do that with a few lunches, you do that with a few dinners.
And then you're happy. And then your energy levels, your weight regulates based on those things, right?
Exactly.
We want to try and find that state of homeostasis.
Exactly. And then if you feel like you're not having enough energy in training, then the conversation becomes, well, let's look at your grams of carbs before training. Let's see if we mix that, if that changes how you feel.
Yeah.
You want to build some more muscle, let's, increase your protein intake.
Yeah.
If you're looking at, like you're too hungry between meals, let's look at your fiber. And you can break it down in a really simple way for people. But again, once you make those changes once, you don't have to keep making them forever.
But you can't get to those specific elements without start learning what your quantities are first.
Exactly.
Yeah. And if you've done it before, that's great. Then let's just make sure it's good again. And then, I think that's probably the best way. And it not being forever is important. And then once you know what 50 gram or the scrambled eggs and the butter or ghee attached to it, just having that awareness and then being able to have your own portions of or an understanding of what's on your plate when you're outside, when you're going to social functions, and then you can regulate it easy. You can still go and enjoy that lifestyle. It's not, I think a lot of people catastrophize any sort of element, right? They'll think worst case scenario, revert back. It's like just start with something that's a little bit better and then see how you go.
Yes, exactly.
But it's
now,
so hard.
The last question I want to ask you is around one of my biggest gripes with the fitness industry is the lack of transparency that mostly influencers will have and sometimes coaches with versus the truth of what happens. Meaning there's a lot of steroid use in the fitness industry. Now there's a lot of GLP-1s that have entered the mix. What are your thoughts about people not being honest in their use of those things and presenting an outcome? So, like a lot of people might not know this, but they scroll through their Instagram and they might not realize that their favorite influencer is on steroids and that's how they're so jacked. But they try and sell you a program to say, if you do this, you'll look like me or like these people.
Well, yeah, I'm quite transparent and honest as I am. So, I think if anyone's trying to hustle you in that manner, right, it sucks that there's no regulation to it. But at the same time, if you're willing to buy that, program, at least just fact check them, and then at least just see what their progression's like. And if it's completely, if it seems like there's one little red flag, just be a little bit more educated on it. Have a look, see if there's steroids. But even on the social media, even just people editing their photos to make it look better. And then it kind of sucks that more and more the digital world is getting more warped and it's not good. And that's where it's important that more and more people like you have a voice to then voice just real people, real results and real circumstances that people are having to navigate every day. I think you're probably one of the most relatable people, just because of the experience you've had, the type of person you are, the type of things you do, dancing, MMA, fitness, strength and conditioning, having some elite strength training, but then having this simplified nutrition, doing your own journey with weight loss and weight gain. And and again, you're just very honest on how you approach things. So I think more and more people will need that organic, authentic person. I think more and more people like you will eventually start to, be seen more. I hope, or that's the stuff that I'll consume, because that's another thing, right? The algorithm will only give you what you want.
That's right.
So if people start clicking on stuff
you end up on different, it's like how a lot of, unfortunately, lots of young girls end up on skinny talk, right? Which is the TikTok side where, starvation is the trend and, that's getting glorified. And it's wild. All the time I'll have clients who will send me stuff that their daughters are consuming, or they'll come and bring, I've had 2 clients this year bring their daughters in to do a PT with me because they're getting crazy advice online. Can you just come and talk to them and tell them how many, how much protein they should eat or what, calories aren't bad. And, there's been 2, 15, 14-year-old girls that I've had training sessions with where, I've had to like explain. I'm like, look, you need like you play a sport, you need food to feel good for that basketball game. Like food isn't bad. Like like it's you shouldn't be scared of having your cereal and your banana before you go to basketball because then you'll go to basketball and you'll feel good and you'll be like awesome. You'll be happy that you scored some goals and you shot some points. But they've ended up on some weird side of the algorithm where they're getting this horrible advice about training, and they've got all this pressure that we didn't really grow up with, right? We just would have come into we're both relatively the same age. We probably our version of social media with training was probably seeing Ronnie Coleman psych himself up to lift some heavy ass back squats. It wasn't getting some crazy advice about how to train or how to eat,
or at least in the magazines and stuff like that, at least there was some sort of regulation towards the simple stuff that they provide. But like even anime, like with just seeing all these huge muscles, right? That still impacted like...
I mean, that's probably why we're all lifting, right? We just want to look like Goku.
Yeah, and that's the stuff, right? So there's elements to that, but then I think like now it's handheld device and it's never turned off. And it's always like continually feeding you. And if you've got 5 minutes, it's there, right?
That's right, yeah.
Which is hard, and those conversations I'll have to have with Blake, because I'm sure, like, again, just that desire to want to be a part of the group is so hard being a teenager. And it comes down, trying to have a higher level of focus on things outside of their body, like their body images should not be up for discussion, but then it seems like every teenager is concerned about how they physically look, like, and it's a hard conversation, but it comes from the parents trying to lead as best they can. So if someone's reached out to you and said, hey, there's a professional in the field, you might not listen to me because I'm your mum and dad, there's a relationship barrier I'm struggling with in this moment. Doesn't mean you're a bad parent, just in that moment they're struggling in that topic. Then go to a professional, and that can be so powerful, and it can literally change the trajectory of where that kid is. So,
for sure.
And just a conversation outside of those things. But it comes back to how you're coaching. Are you empathetic? Hey, I understand like the pressures of what you're going through. I was there at one point, but then also being like, trying to empower them about not, you're gonna empower them for the goals, the energy, you get to have a lot more time with other people, and the protein, you're just going to feel better about yourself. And I think just associating it to other things other than their body image, I think, it's empowering them rather than being like, you should not do this. This is bad for you. And then again, they're just going to be like, but like I want to look like this.
Yes, exactly.
And they're just not going to listen. So it's like, okay, well, what do you enjoy doing? Because that will support the other things. And then it comes less about body image, hopefully. We'll see with Blake, but that's how I'm going to try to approach it. And then if there's other people outside my scope that's got a better understanding, then I'm going to try and push him in there. And it's unfortunate because even when Nat talks about like, just with female bodies and trying to, again, there's always up for discussion when it needs nothing like that. I feel like they need to, scratch that from the history books and actually give them a lot more empowering elements. And it's the whole thing. CrossFit did amazing where it's like,
it took away the emphasis from how you look to what you can do.
And boom, all of a sudden it's like supporting what you can do rather than what you should look like. And I think more and more girls advocating for stronger, fitter, and here's what I can do, here's what I'm doing to help that, rather than what I should look. And again, there's more and more people out there. There's authentic people that are doing all these things, but it just depends on what you click on. Right? Like, and probably the people that are listening probably have a good mindset. They've probably clicked on you because they want to be authentic, but hopefully it just, even if it reaches one person, that it's more about what you can do rather than what you look like. whether you're girl, guy, like indifferent, it doesn't matter. But
No,
yeah.
100%. I mean, that's like every person that, comes into me through the journey of weight loss, like as soon as they're done, as soon as they reach that goal, the goal is to, well, now let's do something. Now that you feel good about yourself, let's get you going for another goal. Because that becomes a game you can't win.
Yeah.
You're never going to actually be happy with how you look. You could go from keg to six pack, and then you start going, yeah, but I want like the veins on my forearms to show. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a win, or you're going to compare yourself to like C-Bum, or you're going to compare yourself to someone else. Like it's a game you can't win. So having those more performance-based goals will give you something that will make training fun. You'll stay motivated, and will keep you in the long game of this without, always putting this magnifying glass on yourself and criticizing yourself.
Yeah. And what if you have like a friend, or if you have like a colleague that they're like all year round, they're so fit, they're so athletic. Why? Because they're always rocking up. They're always doing these things. They're always, if you want, at least associating with those types of people that are just consistent, and it's always the ones that are like just always plugging away. They're going to come whether they're tired or whether they're happy, sad, and come because they want to just feel better. They want to be able to perform better. All of a sudden, the habits are associated with something so much more positive.
100%.
Yeah, and that's the way it is. But yeah, I hope more and more people try to find authentic platforms and gravitate towards these things, because it's not going to get any better, unfortunately.
No, it's not.
But yeah.
Well, brother, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. If people want to find you, how can they do so? Do you want to be found?
Yeah. Do I want to stay up? No. I do have Instagram. I'm Dean. I'm Dean, I think it is. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much Instagram is all I'm on. And then at REVL Prospect Coaching, it's a bloody amazing culture there. So if they would like to jump in to a class, we are more than happy to have them. But otherwise, just those two platforms pretty much, and the rest I'm off.
Yeah, that's all good. All right, thank you, brother. And hopefully have you on the podcast again.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.